I specialize in the perimenopausal pelvic floor, having specialized in the pelvic floor now for 15 years, and very much because of my own journey post-birth, and then I ended up birthing my third child with a broken pelvis. So repairing afterwards set me on track to set up yogamums.net, and then about 6 years ago or so, I started getting a lot more interested in obviously the perimenopausal phase, because that's what I was going into, and a lot of my students were also heading into mid-40s, late 40s. And so I knew a lot theoretically, and obviously I'd done a huge repair job on myself as far as my own pelvic floor goes. And I was back jumping on trampolines, double bouncing my kids. I thought I was really strong in the pelvic floor. But what I didn't experientially realize until my mid-40s was that once we start to lose estrogen, so once our ovaries start to shut up shop and we start to lose that estrogen, the pelvic area is one of the first areas to suffer. And it's not just your pelvic floor. It's not just that sling of muscles that hold your organs in place, and other sphincter muscles, etc. It's also deeper into the pelvic floor bowl, including the levator ani, which is this band of muscle that hold your organs. Kind of they go around your pelvic organs, so your bladder, your uterus, and your bowel. And once we start to lose the elasticity of these muscle fibers, and we go and double bounce the kids on the trampoline, or do a whole lot of HIIT classes, or even running on hard surfaces, even going from sit to stand actually is about 20 pounds of weight going downwards on the pelvic floor. So all of these things can actually mean that the levator ani and the pelvic floor just don't have the same strength that they used to cope with that intra-abdominal pressure, especially if it's sudden. And so what we can do is inadvertent damage to ourselves with simply just not realizing that the pelvic structures have weakened, adding in or getting a bit tummyish, getting a bit of weight around the tummy. We need to do a bit more high impact exercise, need to try and, what we did in our 20s and 30s, tone up. And unfortunately, that can actually lead to too much pressure going downwards, this band of muscle being affected, the pelvic floor being affected, and organs dropping into the vaginal canal, which is called pelvic organ prolapse. Extraordinarily common. So, I had at 45, 46, a 5 out of 5 pelvic floor. So I'd done all my strengthening, but I didn't understand then that it's not just the pelvic floor, it's deeper into the structures. And actually, you really, really, really need to change the way you exercise and be incredibly mindful of intra-abdominal pressure, and ideally start using some topical estrogen cream, which is very, very low dose, almost homeopathic estrogen in the pelvic area. It doesn't go into the bloodstream, so it doesn't affect your bones or your heart or your brain health, nothing like that. It just affects the pelvic area, affects the bladder, the urethra, the sphincter muscles, the vaginal canal. I say to students, it's a bit like using a really good eye cream. So, it just sort of plumps up the area, and using that I talked to a urogynecologist a few years back, and she was like, if only every woman could use this from, say, 42, 43, we would see a lot less issues around urgency incontinence, stress incontinence, pelvic organ prolapse, discomfort, recurrent UTIs, thrush, so on and so forth. So, and I didn't know all that. So I got to my mid-40s, I'm 51 now, thought I was just, I built this whole brand around pelvic floor and all the exercises that I have developed over the years. And then it was just like a whole steep new learning curve, because the perimenopausal pelvic floor is very much like the postnatal pelvic floor. Yeah, so a lot of women, in fact, I'd say the majority, 80% or so of women, will find that issues they had post-birth will reoccur in their mid-40s because of this lack of estrogen, and the whole area. When I say the whole area, I'm talking, the bladder, the urethra, so the tube of the bladder, the sphincter muscles, the closure mechanisms for your anus and for your bladder, the actual vaginal walls, that levator ani, the band of muscle, or the fascia inside the pelvis. All of this is very estrogen rich, and in particular estriol estrogen. And once it starts to diminish, it's a whole new game plan for midlife women, and that's what we'll be talking about a lot in London, because it's a great topic and it's important.
And I think we've discussed this before, how it can open yourselves up to bladder infections. Remember I spoke to you about that.
Yes.
And how people don't realize they start maybe having bladder infections when they never had them before, not understanding the fact that they've actually gone through this hormonal change that was never addressed, and it's more about prevention rather than cure. Rather start it early and not go down that route,
And also a lot of what we think are bladder infections, and you go and take antibiotics, and unfortunately that of course mucks up the gut biome. A lot of bladder infections are not actually bladder infections, it is this lack of estrogen. So if you were to use a vaginal, like Vagifem, a little pessary of vaginal estrogen, or the stuff called Ovastin, which is external as well as internal, it can make a night and day, like a life-changing difference for a lot of women. Women who have bladders that spasm a lot, urgency issues, pretty much honestly everything.
Well, that's the thing.
It's
probably what a lot of women are experiencing, but they dismiss it, Oh, well, I've had children, this is just
my lot in life.
This is just one of those things I have to deal with.
Yeah.
They don't realize that a lot of it could be associated, or probably is, associated with menopause.
100%.
Treatment for.
Yeah.
The better their journey is going to be, and
well, there's so much we can do about it, Angela, and what just upsets me so much, and it's always, know better, do better, don't we? I thought I knew better and I didn't. So, however, what I do know now, I wish I had known when I was in my early 40s. I wish I had known, because many of us had births that were not ideal. Many of us had an episiotomy or an extended pushing phase, maybe had a very large baby, all sorts, maybe a severe tear, all sorts of reasons can mean that the pelvic structures have been slightly traumatized for life. And it's something that you just have to accept and deal with. And there's an awful lot we can do. This is the thing, without surgery, a huge amount of physiotherapy that we can do. This is what I teach in my posture and pelvic floor restore yoga class. So it's all incorporated within a yoga class. We can be looking at massively improving the way we breathe, because our diaphragm and our pelvic floor, which is a diaphragm as well, they work synergistically together. So if you're not breathing well, if you're just chest breathing, that massively affects how your pelvic floor can function. If you're not standing well, if you are somebody who habitually has your shoulders rolling forward, your chest collapsed, your pelvis sort of tucked under, or if you try to pull in your tummy to make yourself look skinnier, that basically pushes all of your intra-abdominal pressure down onto a very weakened and foreshortened pelvic floor. So we need to sort out posture. That's massively important. We need to sort out the gluteal muscles, the bum muscles that support the whole of the pelvis. We need to release tension patterns, because a lot of women, I would say 50% of pelvic floor dysfunction issues actually come from too much tension in the pelvic area. So if those pelvic floor muscles are all scrunched up because you're tucking and you're sucking, I call it, we need to lengthen those out. And that's why yoga is so good, because it's a mind-body connection. And it's a lot of it is the breathing, it's the releasing, the opening up the muscle fibers, so that we can then plump up those muscle fibers and strengthen them with the both slow twitch and fast twitch. We've got different types of muscle fibers, so we need to be training both so we can get those sphincters to quickly close when need be. Did you know that they reckon 1 in 5 women over 40 have fecal incontinence? There's 1 in 5. So it's really important to be releasing tension and plumping up.
Talk about. Probably not something they're going to want to admit or talk about.
Or talk to even their GPs about.
Yeah,
but that's why it's really important to start normalizing, start talking about it. I mean, I'm not we're talking 80% of women in their lifetime will have some kind of pelvic floor dysfunction, and a lot of that happens around perimenopause. A lot of it does, and I think it's to do with busyness, stress. It's to do with our diet slipping because we're knackered. and so we end up eating the carbs, etc. We don't go for the we don't know about the protein, and especially the good fats and the high fiber, the good fats we need, because they are the precursor to our own production of hormones. They don't know about, people go, I'm too busy for this mindfulness nonsense, this relaxation nonsense. I literally don't have the time, not realizing that it's such a downward spiral. If you don't give yourself time to calm the adrenals, the pelvic floor is, for us ladies, more so than the neck and the shoulders, the area that we are going to hold that tension. You're going to get urgency issues. You're much more likely to have prolapse. And I think I said when we were chatting the other day that, so in 2020, for the first time globally, incontinence pads for women outsold baby nappies. So, and this is crazy. And most women who go into nursing homes, they go in with incontinence issues, and almost all ladies staying in will have incontinence issues. There's a huge drive at the moment to try and get topical estrogen in all the nursing homes just to help this statistic. Yes. And we don't need it to be a statistic. This is the crazy thing. If you do something about it now, you'd be fine.
It's about being able to talk freely with our medical professionals or alternative professionals, whoever you feel comfortable with, and getting the help that you need, because with anything, it's better to start early than late, With our skin, we always look at that and go, if only I looked at my skin when I was younger, the early you start educating yourself with this, and also realizing how interconnected your body is. As you say, when something happens here, you can look at a different part of your body and there's some connection,
Yes.
And as you say about your posture, a back problem is actually often inflexible hips. Or,
yeah.
And so there's also, and also connected with your mind as well, because I know myself when I'm stressed, my body manifests, and everyone's body manifests it different, I can almost have diarrhea when I'm stressed, with no control of it whatsoever. That's just how my body manifests it, And I go, I'm tight, I'm worried about something.
Yes.
This is where my body represents itself. Now, I'm not a chronic worrier, but people that are doing that on a daily basis, the wear and tear in their bodies is just astonishing,
I would say that since COVID, most of the one-to-ones I'm doing, when people are coming to me for, say, low back pain, hip pain, or pelvic floor issues, and they think that they need strengthening, it's actually massive tension patterns. And actually we have to start with a whole lot of teaching how to get that mind-body connection, obviously teaching, posture and breathing, etc., but how to go into that deep state of relaxation, connection with the pelvic muscles, and just let them go. It's not something that can happen overnight. It's a unwinding, if you like, a decommissioning of decades of patterning, but you're so right. It's a mind-body thing, but then it's also a physical thing. So there's so much we can be doing: lifestyle, our diet, our sleep patterns, our relaxation, estrogen, understanding what is actually happening on a biochemistry kind of level. If you understand it, if you understand what your organs actually do within your pelvic bowl, what your pelvic floor actually does, if you have a little bit of basic anatomy understanding, that can help enormously, because you can start going, oh wow, yes, my hip flexors are super tight. I can feel they're really tight. And actually I can feel that my jeans are really loose at the back and I've got no lumbar curve. And I get either really badly constipated or diarrhea when I'm stressed. I also get urgency. I see the door and I desperately need the loo. Sometimes I can't hold it. So these are all going, okay, well, we've got to sort out your tension. We need to sort out what's going on there. We need to supplement with some estrogen. We need to look at, all of these different components, and then we need to start building up those muscles, because we have to do that in our midlife years. We have to. We can't start that when we're 70. Well, we can, but we want to do it now, We really do. And it's not hard. It's not hard. It's just doing it consistently.
Exactly. I think it's simplifying it and making it accessible for people, and knowing there's little simple things they could probably do daily. Snippets of time. I always say with anything, it doesn't have to be complicated. Not everyone. Granted, not everyone has got the time, but it's about finding those snippets of time that you can do something for yourself. Yeah.
Well, I've made thebathroombootcamp.com. Yes. It's free, so get that, guys. If you haven't got it, thebathroombootcamp.com in it are some key pelvic floor activation exercises. So it's not looking at the release stuff, and I'd really suggest that if you find that doing pelvic floor activation actually makes your symptoms worse, you have to go and see a pelvic floor physiotherapist, get an internal investigation, and just find out where you might have those tension patterns, because it's not a one size fits all. No, it's not. However, for most of us, we just need to start getting a little bit of activation through those pelvic floor muscles pretty much on a daily basis, or at least 3 times a week. And that's what I show in the bathroombootcamp.com. And also just doing things like, air squats. So with strength, that's fabulous for your pelvic floor and your bum and your thighs and your core, the whole shebang. So getting in some of those exercises that kind of do a whole lot of things at once and really amp up your pelvic floor activation is a good idea. Just need to make sure you release those muscles at the end of it. You don't hold yourself all day.
So we obviously, people in London or people nearby, we're going to be talking about more of this in depth, and obviously giving you some hands-on tools and exercises that you can go away and use at home. For those of them, people that can't, tell people where they can connect with you. I know, shame, Linda, you lost your Instagram page. It was hacked a little while ago. You lost all your following and you're struggling to get it going. So please go and follow Linda.
Maybe come on Facebook. Linda Stevens Wellbeing.
Answering questions, but also how can people connect with your programs, those people that are not local. Just tell us quickly about that before we wrap up.
Well, if you just go to lindastevenswellbeing.com, that's my sort of umbrella site. From there you can look at online courses. I've got some very in-depth pelvic floor recovery courses and just some very shorter intro ones. I'm running my womenswellbeing.me membership, so that's where I teach live weekly classes, and there's a huge library of classes there too. But if you just head to Linda Stevens Wellbeing, it's Linda Stevens with a PH .com, and you can kind of find my stuff there. But for free, the bathroombootcamp.com, start there. It's free. You can just start doing literally straight away. Start doing something. That's the thing. Incremental exercise, I say to everyone, incremental exercises are the midlife woman's secret weapon. If you can start just doing little and often, that's the habit we want to get into for the rest of our lives, basically.
With everything in life, it's just daily habits, building up those daily good, healthy habits. Like you don't think twice of brushing your teeth and brushing your hair. Well, I should hope so. But I mean, those things are just automatic, and that's how your life should be. Some things should just be automatic, you know, without thinking about things.
Yeah, that's when I do my stuff. I'm brushing my teeth and I'm doing my squats, doing my pelvic floor exercises, doing my balances.
And as you say, not one size fits all. Everyone has a different thing that floats their boat. Everything has a different thing that brings them joy in the way of exercise, we also went for a dog walk this morning as well. And if it's a dance class or whatever, people as PT, although I don't do a lot of personal training anymore, everyone goes, must I run? Must I do this? I'm going, what do you enjoy?
What floats your boat?
Strength training is important, but don't go do something that you don't enjoy, because you're never going to sustain it. There's some things that are important, daily things that you teach, and that's really important. But when it comes to things beyond that, things that they want to do to build up healthy habits and to ease that stress, people need to just find things that are going to satisfy them and bring them joy, and everyone's different.
Yeah, that's so true. I do find though, and you probably find the same thing, I reckon, when you're in the middle of perimenopause and there's so much information out there, and you're literally like, I literally don't have the brain capacity or the energy to find out what is the best thing for me. And also, you sometimes lose what does bring me joy. I can't even remember what brings me joy. So that's why I've within the womenswellbeing.me space, I've created the Women's Wellbeing Pathway 1, 2, 3. So it's basically different classes that help with different common perimenopausal symptoms. So you can literally go, today I'm fatigued, I'm exhausted, I've got urgency issues, that's low progesterone, high estrogen, I'm going to go and do this class. Now I need to focus on my pelvic floor and my posture, I'm going to do this class. Or now I need to focus on my muscle strength and I'm getting atrophy, or my bones, I don't want to lose my, the sarcopenia and the bone density loss, and I've got a class for that. So it's really important, I think, to also acknowledge that at this, I know for me, I would have loved when I was going through my real perimenopausal issues, for somebody just to go, Linda, this is going to help you. These are the podcasts to listen to. This is the information you need. This is what you need to ask your doctor. This is what is going to help you with these symptoms. That's what I needed. And so that's what I've created with that space. Yeah.
Okay. So
okay.
Everyone. And hopefully we'll see those who are in London or surrounding areas.
It's going to be good. It's going to be so nice.
Lovely. Put on the glitz. Put on the glamour. It doesn't matter if it's the end of January.
Because end of January is just grim, isn't it? So,
I know. So
yeah.
why not just brighten up the
And also just to have some connection, I think, with other women who just get it.
Absolutely.
And have those conversations where I can say vagina prolapse, blah, all of these things. We can talk about the brain fog. We can talk about all the stuff, and no one's going to go, ooh. Well, they might.
Just goes nods. They go,
yeah.
Or living it right now,
Oh, it's so nice to know you're not alone.
And then this is our last live before the Christmas break. Obviously, if there's anything that we'll do more in the new year, addressing different topics before the run up to the event itself. But I hope you have a lovely Christmas.
Yeah.
And just enjoy the break. Really.
Yeah.
Properly heal without all the stresses of what's going on around you.
Do what I'm going to do. Be in control of letting go of being in control. The house is going to get messy. It's just, it's going to get messy.
I've got to a stage in my life where I just try and keep it as simple as possible. And don't build my expectations up as to what I think it needs to look like, because so often you get disappointed and you go, No, I kind of got more spontaneous and go with the flow now, and end up enjoying myself even more,
Yeah. I'm hoping because I suppose, like I'm fine, I'm chatting now and I'm fine, but actually, with this COVID fatigue, I'm going to have to just sit there and just direct everybody else.
Good. Well, anyway, have a lovely Christmas, and to everyone listening, have a lovely Christmas as well, and we'll chat in the new year.
Thanks for joining.
And get in touch with Linda if you need to know anything more.
Yeah,
okay.
Send me a message. I'm happy to help.
Bye.
Bye.